Hello, I'm Jason Solomons and welcome to Seen Any Good Films Lately? On this show, I look at the week's film news, I tell you what I've been watching, and we get film recommendations and memories from a brilliant guest from a legendary film family.
But if I was able to travel back in time, I guess treasure the Sierra Madre, because I could meet my grandfather for the very first time.
That's Danny Huston, son of John Huston, grandson of Walter Huston, half-brother to Angelica Huston. Yeah, Danny Huston is my guest today, talking about his new film, The Last Photograph, which sees him back directing as well as acting, and taking us through his film memories as he faces the Sagful 10 questions. We'll hear from Danny and find out what he's been watching after I tell you if I've seen any good films lately. Bit of news first. This is the week in which Citizen Kane was knocked off the top spot as the official best film ever made and replaced by, of course, Paddington 2.
So, I'm going to ask one of you to come up here and open the fair. Volunteers? Anyone? Eeny, meeny, miny. Bear. Let's have the young bear. Why not?
Come, young Urson.
Thank you.
Up here, my furry friend. Very good, very good. Now, your name is?
Paddington Brown.
Oh, well, of course it is. You are my new neighbor. You live with Henry and Mary and the great Mrs. Now then, I suppose you know who I am.
Oh, yes. You're a very famous actor.
Oh, pooh.
Or used to be. Now you do dog food commercials.
Well, a man has to eat.
What? Dog food?
Very, very funny.
So this is the story that an old, slightly less than favourable review of Citizen Kane that appeared from 1941 in a Chicago newspaper was uploaded to the reviews aggregator site Rotten Tomatoes. And this slither of negativity has disrupted the algorithmic continuum and made Citizen Kane lose its 100% fresh rating on the site, leaving Paddington 2 as the remaining 100% champion and therefore new holder of the greatest film of all time, or GFOTE. That's what I'm calling it. What does all this mean? Look, let's take it with a pinch of salt and have a bit of fun with it, because it's nice to see a bloated despot like Kane exit pursued by a bear. And who's got a bad word to say about Paddington 2, frankly? Nobody, not even Hugh Grant. And it's a gorgeous family film with nods to Jacques Tati and Charlie Chaplin and prison movies and musicals and Ealing comedies and yes, even Citizen Kane. Where Paddington is all marmalade, Kane is definitely Marmite. He's an aggressive dictator. And Paddington is also an outsider who gets what he wants, but he's a passive-aggressive bear, isn't he? And while Kane searched for his Rosebud, Paddington seeks his pop-up book for Aunt Lucy. There are similarities, but either way, the fur flies. Look, let's not forget that film criticism is often a consumer guide. So Rotten Tomatoes reviews, yes, they tell you whether a film is positive or not, but it's really more about a film's merits that we should watch it tonight, or it makes for a treat on a wet lockdown Saturday afternoon. It's not proper, nuanced film criticism all of the time. And perhaps we can blame David Fincher's rather boorish film Mank about the making of Citizen Kane for lifting a curtain on the nefarious personalities of the era, and perhaps that lost Citizen Kane a few film fans along the way. It is high time that film canon was overturned and disrupted. Any list of the greatest now needs to include female directors, black filmmakers, brown filmmakers, a wider pool of critical consideration as to notions of what's good and bad. All of that will probably result in Paddington, when this is made much more official by whatever means we find. Paddington will be taken down a notch or two, I'm sure. But it is a film that's got lots of diversity, and it's got a fairy tale, inclusive, welcoming, pre-Brexit London. For now, though, Paddington 2, we'd off our little red hats to him. Meanwhile, back in Hollywood, Mank, a sort of making of Citizen Kane, was nominated for 10 Oscars, and it walked away with 2 at the ceremony, while Chloe Zhao's Nomadland won the big 3 of film, director and actress for Frances McDormand. I've moaned about that film here last week, and I moaned about it before because I don't love that film. but it's out now on Disney Plus, April the 30th here in the UK, so you can see for yourself. And if you're underwhelmed, well, I did warn you. But it's an Oscar winner not releasing in the cinemas, which is about as disrupted as you can possibly get. The crowning achievement of COVID and the streaming services resulting in the cinema model being completely turned on its head. The Best Picture Oscar straight onto streaming. Who'd ever heard of that? Anyway, I think it's interesting to note these two film phenomenon of the digital age, Paddington 2 being the greatest film of all time, and Nomadland, the Oscar winner, appearing on Disney+. Did you watch the Oscars show? I did. Oh, bloody thing. What a wholly disappointing TV show that was when you get to 4:30 in the morning here in the UK. It was set in a train station for no clear reason. And it started out quite nicely, directed by Steven Soderbergh, like a heist movie, like one of his Oceans 10, 11, 12, or 8. And with Regina King sort of swiping the Oscar and walking through the station when the sort of credits appeared. But then it petered out into a succession of dull speeches and awkward pre-filmed segments about a Hollywood old folks home. Look, as Jimmy Kimmel joked the next day, how could something so woke send so many people to sleep? I laughed more at that joke than anything else that was said on the whole of Oscar night. They had months to prepare, months to come up with something and a script in a year when they really could have done something interesting and no one would have minded, given the extraordinary circumstances we're in. It could have made awards shows relevant and rebooted them for the new tomorrow. Instead, they made it feel like a relic. And the lowest viewing figures ever for the Oscars tell you what the people thought too. So we've lost a huge opportunity there to help people understand that film's still vital and important. So listen to this podcast. Look, what was the best win for me? Look, well done Chloe Zhao for female directing, landmarks and all of that. But as I said, I don't love that film. I think Frances McDormand unbalances it with her overacting. I was very proud to see Daniel Kaluuya up there and Anthony Hopkins, who was magnificent in The Father. You can see that June the 11th. And it was a clearly well-deserved award for a great, great performance from one of the great screen actors. Right, enough of the Oscars. Let's get on with the show and meet my guest. The big interview on Seen Any Good Films lately is supported by Strike, the distilled drink with all the spirit, none of the alcohol. They were with us all the way through awards season, and I'm delighted to tell you now that that was just the beginning of a beautiful friendship. Do listen out for more Humphrey Bogart a bit later in the show. And Strike, who've now just got 2 Ks and 1 Y, will be with us all summer, all the way up to the delayed Cannes Film Festival in July. So remember, Strike is now available in cans. Haha, we had to do it, didn't we? Go to strike.com, that's STRYKK, and order yours, your bottles or your cans, and put in Jason40 as the discount code to get 40% off for Seen Any Good Films lately, listeners. Cheers, Strike. The sagful guest today is Danny Huston, scion of a legendary Hollywood family. He was practically born on a film set and has forged a colourful career for himself as an actor in films such as the terrific 90s LA indie Ivan's Ecstasy, and memorable supporting roles in The Constant Gardener, The Proposition, The Aviator and Wonder Woman, as well as the mighty TV show Succession. Danny returns to directing now and also stars in The Last Photograph, a very moving, sensitive film set in London about a man who loses his son in the 1988 Lockerbie air bombing. And the memories triggered when a simple bag snatch robbery sends him into a desperate spiral a bit later.
What was in the bag, sir?
Tommy? Oh, sorry, am I interrupting?
Sorry, you are?
I own that restaurant. I'm a friend. Rather, I know Mr. Hammond.
If I may continue.
Certainly.
The bag, sir.
500 pounds in cash for the damn plumber. Book. Yesterday's paper. My keys. But I have an extra set. And, a photograph.
So The Last Photograph is a film about memories, fathers and sons, which is very apt for this particular director, of course. And when I caught up with Danny, who was in LA, despite living half the time here in the UK now, I asked him if he's ever had a photograph that he's treasured.
A poster I had in my bedroom growing up as a kid was of my father and Muhammad Ali, and they both have their fists under each other's chins. And it was when Muhammad Ali went to Ireland, and my father was promoting Fat City, 1972. Yeah, and I had that poster. It was a big poster in my bedroom in Rome growing up. It was lost when we moved from Rome to London. I miss it. I really do. I miss it dearly.
Wow, who took that photo?
I'm not sure who took the photograph. It would have been a press shot.
Yeah. How fabulous. So yeah, we all have these, I think, that we cling to. They're such powerful images throughout that they freeze a memory, don't they? Because you sort of invent a story around the photograph that may be not even true. You know what I mean? You kind of go, oh, you remember an experience through a photograph that may not even be that experience sometimes.
And it can be photographs or objects or gestures, places. The character in The Last Photograph is either lost or stolen, but it makes them sort of spiral. And in the telling of the story, which is told out of chronology, we understand.
Did you get memories, flashbacks of when you were, I know you've been in London many, many times, but when you had that film school, you were film school at the London Film School in the 80s, wasn't it? The London Film School?
That's right.
Yeah. Were you flashing back to that yourself when you were remembering shooting this one?
It was great to get back in the saddle and direct again. And so it brought all those memories back very, very much. The fun of working with different formats and different cameras. And so I felt like I was a student again.
Yeah, because it struck me as I was watching it, and I meant, sometimes as critics we sit there and we kind of go, oh yes, I see he's got, he's very influenced by Godard here, or he's very influenced by this one. And obviously one would say he's influenced by Huston, but I don't think that even the greatest detective could always detect a John Huston movie. Do you know what I mean? Your dad never had a signature style other than it was good stuff with great performances and a tight script. There's no signature camera movement that you say, well, that's a Hustonian flourish there.
That's right. I mean, they were all adaptations of great books. And he had a really keen eye and was able to adapt and find the essence of the story. And that was his style in a sense. But you're absolutely right. I mean, you're talking about Fat City. I think he went on to make Wise Blood and then Annie. And then Escape to Victory and Man Would Be King. And so these are all different films entirely. And some were more for himself and the others were more for the studio, I guess. And he was able to play that poker game with the studio.
Yeah, it amazes me that I can watch two of your dad's films with my kids, which are Escape to Victory and Annie, and they've both seen them, and they love them, So I always think it's a bit odd that Noah Cross could be this guy that creates these sort of endurable family jewels.
Yes, I agree with you completely.
When you were making it, this one in particular, is there a voice in your head that that you've heard him shout and echo down through the ages, through film sets that's in your ear?
When I was very young, I had a Super 8 camera. I was filming everything. I was swinging the lens around, and he got irritated. He said, "Stop it right now." He said, "When you look from left to right and right to left, what do you do?" And so I thought about it. I don't know. I give up there. What is it? What does one do? And he said, "You blink. That's a cut. Concentrate on what it is you're trying to say, and not on all the nonsense in between." It's quite a good life lesson. But that was my first film lesson from my father.
Have you seen any good films lately, Danny Huston?
The Father, I like very much.
Oh my gosh, I did too.
Yeah, I mean, not only because of Hopkins' performance, which is magical, but the camera angles, the way that we felt the same emotion and distraction and inability to make connections, and the camera work was quite distant, so there was no trickery involved, and suddenly you felt what the character was going through. I thought that was extraordinary.
Yeah, I did too.
And then Judas and the Black Messiah, just the actual film and the way it's crafted I thought was just superb. And the question of betrayal, I mean, that's biblical as the title suggests.
Wasn't it? I mean, I thought it was a thriller. Yeah. Again, a film that's got many different elements in it. You know, there's a bit of a thriller, a bit of blaxploitation, and then there's a bit of, you know, war kind of scenario and politics and courtroom drama. Fantastic stuff. My two favourites you've picked there.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah. Well, it had it all for me. And then documentaries, the Truffle Hunters, just the pure eccentricity. It was just marvelous. I just enjoyed it, and the friendship between the men and their dogs, I thought was really heartwarming.
Another of my absolute favourites, Danny Huston. Yeah. What marvellous taste we both have.
Don't. And then Fireball. That might surprise.
I don't know Fireball.
Werner Herzog. And it's cataclysmic. If one's ever concerned about one's point on Earth, if you're having any existential moments of crisis, I suggest you watch Fireball. It's astonishing about meteors that have hit.
Oh wow! Well, Werner Herzog is always good at putting your existential fears into one little penguin going off into the distance. So you know, I'm up for Fireball. Great shout.
Throughout history, meteorites have captivated human imagination. Each one of these stones from darker worlds has its own story. And the bigger ones have changed entire landscapes. But they also have left a deep impact on cultures. Our voyage took us to wherever large fireballs had plunged down to Earth.
It's a very special place for us. That's where we feel the presence of our ancestors.
How might the church react if NASA detects a really threatening object hurtling towards us?
I'll be honest, we'll pray. What else can you do?
Every element in our body was synthesized in other stars before it got here. So yeah, we're all stardust.
What was the first film you ever saw at the cinema, Danny?
I guess the first film I saw in the cinema was in a screening room, and it was The Bible. And my father had directed The Bible, and it was a screening for an artist called Manzu, who created the sculpture in clay for the birth of Adam. And it was in some screening room, and I was very young. And my mother's, she plays Haga, and there's a kid, but the kid's not me. He's dying of thirst in the desert. And my father does the voiceover for God.
Of course.
And so that was, I remember that.
Where would that be? A screening one in Italy, in Cinecittà?
In Italy, yes. It might have been Cinecittà for the artist Manzu, who hadn't seen the film yet. I guess that's the first. Now, of course, later, as far as my memories are concerned, talking about memories, it would have been in Ireland, where there was always a big palaver about lacing the projector, and the film would either rip or scratch or something like that. The bulb would not go on, and finally, it would all be set up, and the bulb would go on, and the beam of light would cut through the cigar smoke, usually my father's cigar. And there were films like Maltese Falcon, Treasure of the Sierra Madre.
Wow. I love that he would show his own films as well, not too modest.
No, and it was a way for me to be introduced to my grandfather, Walter Huston, who was in Treasure.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, they're two of the best films. I think Maltese Falcon, isn't Maltese Falcon like 80 years old this year?
80 years old.
Now let's talk about the Blackbird.
Let's. Mr. Spade, have you any conception of how much money can be got for that Blackbird?
No.
Well, sir, if I told you half, you'd call me a liar.
No, not even if I thought so. But you tell me what it is, and I'll figure out the profit.
You mean you don't know what the bird is?
Oh, I know what it's supposed to look like. And I know the value in human life you people put on it.
She didn't tell you what it is? Cairo didn't either?
He offered me $10,000 for it.
$10,000. Mind you, not even pounds. Do they know what that bird is? What is your impression?
Well, there's not very much to go by. Cairo didn't say he did, and he didn't say he didn't. She said she didn't, but I took it for granted she was lying.
Not an injudicious thing to do. If they don't know, I'm the only one in the whole wide, sweet world who does.
Swell. When you told me, that'll make two of us.
I think you mentioned a film poster that you had on your wall, which I think was a tremendous kind of shout that you made for that one. That's one of the best answers I've ever had. But if you remember a film that changed your life, Danny Huston.
I guess, on reflection, the Bible truly changed my life because I was born in Italy because of it.
Yes.
It had a long pre-production and post-production, so as the Bible would.
I thought you'd get it done in 7 days, couldn't you?
So my father was in Rome a long time. It was a big Dino De Laurentiis production, etc. So I guess that now the films that affected me growing up a lot were the neorealism. It was De Sica and Rossellini, and those were the films that had a real impact on me. Then of course my father's films without doubt, but Italian neorealisms, Rossellini, De Sica, etc. La Strada by Fellini, bicycle films.
Amazing. I don't know if I felt a frisson in your film, The Last Photographs. I felt a frisson of Antonioni, actually. I thought there was a little bit of blow-up homage there, a little bit of alienation in the urban setting.
Thank you, and a little nod to Nick Rowe too, with the red coat.
With the red coat, yes. There you go. All the greats. Well, if you're going to steal from the best, right?
Absolutely.
What did you watch for inspiration for The Last Photograph?
Well, I knew that I wanted to use archive material, so that's really what my research started. I knew I wanted to use Alistair Stewart's voice, breaking the story, and I love the way that Adam Curtis uses imagery and finds and the imagery finds its narrative. That was an inspiration.
Yes, I see that. Absolutely. Yeah. Until you're confused, and the confusion that Adam sows by those juxtaposition of images and the doubts that it sows. It must have been exactly how anyone felt who was involved personally with this sort of almost kind of random crime is what what your characters sort of see it as. So you had this poster on your wall as a teenager. This one of Fat City. You must have had a few over the period. Do you still have any film posters on your walls?
I have The Other Side of the Wind, just as you open my front door. It's right there.
The new one of the new Orson Welles restoration that Netflix did.
Well, it wasn't a restoration. It was putting it together for the very first time. That was a magical experience for me because I went to there were some problems with my father's dialogue. It was lost. So they asked me to go and dub some of his dialogue, and it was one of the most magical things that has ever happened to me. It was spooky, and we did the recordings, and they played it back, and there he was talking back at me, and he wasn't saying particularly pleasant things.
No, he's not his finest sort of incarnation.
Yeah, that's a poster I have up there, and then I have down in my office I have a poster of Violence Ecstasy, which is really close to my heart.
Well, is it the poster with the line of cocaine and the classic?
It's not. It's the LA poster. It's got his face and he's smoking something, and below him is a girl laying by the pool. But that's a film that changed my life. It started my career as an actor. The directors paid attention to it, and the next thing I knew, I was working with the likes of Scorsese. But it was because of that film.
Last night, I had this incredible pain. The pain was so strong that I took every pill in the goddamn house. Pills wouldn't do anything. pain wouldn't go away. So I tried to find an image, one worthwhile image that would get me through it. And all I could find was shit. I couldn't find one worthwhile goddamn thing.
If I can take you back in time, you're one of the easiest people to ask this question for, and you could visit any film set. Which one would you visit? Now I know you've grown up on film sets, so it's quite a difficult one. But I don't know. You can go to any one of any film being made. Which one do you fancy visiting for?
Well, you know, I was thinking Casablanca would be a great one to visit, but then it was Warner Brothers. It was shot in L.A., so maybe not that exciting. So for excitement, maybe something like Fitzcarraldo, you know, just to go completely adventurous. And then I don't know, maybe that's too much of an adventure. So I guess the one that would be really great to relish would be Apocalypse Now, because you could really see the madness of unfold, and that would just be a hoot. But if I was able to travel back in time, I guess Treasure of the Sierra Madre, because I could meet my grandfather for the very first time and see my father as a young man, and maybe even spot some others, you know.
What's that you say? Go back? Well, tell my old grandmother I got two very elegant bedfellows who kick at the first drop of rain and hide in the closet from thunder rumbles. My, what great prospectors. Two shoe clerks reading the magazine about prospecting for gold in the land of the midnight sun, south of the border or west of the Rockies. Shut your trap. Shut up or I'll smash your head flat. Go ahead, throw it. If you did, you'd never leave this wilderness alive. Without me, you two would die here more miserable than rats.
I'll leave him alone. Can't you see the old man's nuts?
Nuts! Nuts, am I? Let me tell you something, my two fine bedfellows. You're so dumb there's nothing to compare you with. You're dumber than the dumbest jackass. Look at each other, will you? Do you ever see anything like yourself for being dumb specimens? You're so dumb, you don't even see the ridges you're treading on with your own feet. Yeah, don't expect to find nuggets of molten gold. It's rich, but not that rich. And here ain't the place to dig. It comes from someplace further up. Up there. Up there's where we got to go. Up there.
Oh, I would love to be on that. I'd come with you on that one. Well, all of those I'd quite like to be on, but the Treasure of the Sierra Madre would be, just fabulous.
Yeah.
Have you ever fallen in love at the movies, Danny?
Well, who I honestly did fall in love with on and off the screen was Ava Gardner. You know, I met her when I was 2, I believe. That I don't recall it, but I'm told by my mother. I met her when I was 2 on this Night of the Iguana in Mexico. But then, of course, I saw her on the screen since. And then my mother and I had lunch with her in Montpellier Square. She arrived at a restaurant, Italian restaurant, and she arrived in her Dr. Scholl's and hardly any makeup on at all. And we had lunch, and I was smitten. And after the lunch, I said to my mother, "Mom, I think I'm in love." And she gave me a sort of a gentle sort of cuff on the back of the head, and said, "Of course you are. It's Ava Gardner, for Christ's sake."
It's a classy choice, I have to say.
Yeah. Thank you.
I'm going to have to finish up in a minute, Danny, but just before I go, what's your favourite, either your favourite cinema or the favourite place that you've actually ever watched a movie?
Yes, Il Pasqualino, which is in Rome, near a square called the Piazza Santa Maria in Trastevere. I remember watching many films there, and there were all the English films played in the Pasqualino. And the roof would open, and there'd be starry nights in the summer.
Wow.
Yeah, I remember watching Last Tango in Paris then. It's very shocking.
That is very shocking, but a beautiful cinema itself, is it?
Yeah, it's a beautiful little cinema. I wonder if it's still working.
Yeah.
You know, the Cinerama Dome closed here.
I heard this is a terrible thing.
Yeah.
Cinemas will come. We want to see them on the big screen. We want to get back to cinemas, don't we?
We do. Do we not? We absolutely do.
What's your favourite location that you've either visited or shot in or seen in a movie and you just thought, I want to go there?
one of the great luxuries of working on films, is the best luxury, is travel, be able to go to places that you wouldn't ordinarily. One of my favorite as a kid was the Atlas Mountains in Morocco, visiting my father there from Man Would Be King, and there was, Sean Connery, Michael Caine, Christopher Plummer. It was a Kipling story, and the whole thing was, there were the blue people there. It was just pure adventure. So that was great. Winton in Australia, when I was shooting The Proposition, that was about as far away as you can get. And that was a wonderful experience.
Weren't you besieged by flies, though?
Yeah, I was, but I enjoyed it, and a beer never tasted as good.
Yeah.
Yes, I like it when films take me to places that I wouldn't go ordinarily.
Absolutely. Danny, I knew you'd be fantastic at these questions. I could speak to you for hours. Listen, it's so great to catch up with you and to see your film. Honestly, it moved me greatly, I have to say.
Thank you.
Very, very touching and beautifully done. So congratulations on that.
All right, you take care.
And The Last Photograph is available to stream here in the UK now. Really well played and shot with nice work from Sarita Chaudhry, haven't seen her for ages, and SAGFUL regular Stacey Martin. Okay, what can I recommend? What have I seen lately? Well, there's fashion doc House of Cardin, which is great fun. It's a lovely, lively documentary about Pierre Cardin and his fashions and his designs, from the bubble dress of the 50s to the Javelin AMC sports car of the 70s, from a theatre to chairs and table lamps and cigarettes. The man was everywhere. Was he too ubiquitous? Did he tarnish the brand by going on towels and electric razors? This is the story of a cultural giant told with colour and breezy enjoyment by directing duo David Ebersole and Todd Hughes, who, I can announce, will be my guests on next week's show. So if you want to do your homework, watch House of Cardin. And you can also watch the documentary Truman and Tennessee, an intimate conversation, which puts Truman Capote and Tennessee Williams together to examine their work and their public lives, creating a fascinating literary fantasy using archive and their beautiful writing and some of their interviews and then their voiceover. So it's playfully presented by director Lisa Imodino Vreeland, and then it's voiced by Jim Parsons and Zachary Quinto. It's really interestingly done and fascinating to watch, with lots of clips of some of the great films that Tennessee Williams has directed, let's not forget, and that great party scene from Truman Capote's Breakfast at Tiffany's. Lisa Imodino Vreeland will also be on the show next week and will tell us more. So that's two things to watch: House of Cardin and Truman and Tennessee, an intimate conversation. You can find them both streaming. You can get them via Dogwoof for Truman and Tennessee, and the House of Cardin is available on iTunes and Sky Store and various other spots. Meanwhile, two very accessible, great recommends from me. The first is the Netflix show Worn Stories, in which people, normal people, tell you about a significant piece of clothing that has marked their life. This is really clear and simple documentary TV making, with humour and love and a great mix of characters illustrating a lovely idea. It's beautifully done, created by 20 Foot from Stardom director Morgan Neville and Genji Cohen, who did Glow and Orange is the New Black. It's bright and funny and tender and warm and poignant, and it's got a mix of stories and styles, and I loved it. I guess it's like what we do here, but with clothes instead of movies.
In 5th grade, I found this t-shirt. It was responsible for what I turned into.
I put on my first pair of heels. I was like, oh yeah, this is who she is.
Clothing is an art form. It is about expression.
I could be a crossing guard by day and a ninja by night.
I'm also loving right now BBC Two's series A Life in 10 Pictures. I've only caught the Tupac Shakur episode so far, but it was brilliant. And it told the story of this actor, rapper, activist, thug with clarity, and illuminated what he was trying to do throughout his life. And it had images of him I'd never seen before, including the last one ever taken, which was obviously filled with poignancy. And it talks to the people who took the photos, the photographers. It talks to people who were in the photos, some old friends. It's unmissable stuff. Not only is there a Tupac one in the series, there's a Liz Taylor one and a Muhammad Ali one coming, and I can't wait to watch both of those. They're on BBC iPlayer right now. And when I saw that Tupac show, it was on BBC Two, I think Saturday night, it was quickly followed by Hip Hop at the BBC, which I think might have been around for a while, but I just caught it. It's still on iPlayer for a little while yet, and that was tremendous fun and very well put together. So it was the journey of the hip hop from when it first appeared on Top of the Pops with Sugar Hill Gang's Rapper's Delight, introduced by Simon Bates, to the progression through that golden age of the 90s with the Run DMC and Ice-T gangster stuff with the more playful De La Soul and Tribe Called Quest stuff. And then it went all the way to the centerpiece of the white commodification of the genre when Vanilla Ice appeared on Wogan. And everyone screamed because there was a white guy doing it, and everyone fell in love with it. It's really well put together without really much commentary, just telling that story. It's a really fascinating wallow and an enjoyable watch. It's on our iPlayer, as I said, and it goes all the way through to Eminem and Dre and up to Dizzy Rascal and Jay-Z. Really enjoyed that one. It's called Hip Hop at the BBC. So let's go out on some hip hop, shall we? From that Hip Hop at the BBC compilation. Thanks to Danny Huston for his Sagful 10. Thanks to Strike for all the spirit, none of the alcohol. And doing my best Top of the Pops white BBC presenter when confronted with an expression of the Black American experience. Here's Moni Love. See ya.
Down to earth, and I'll tell you why. For what it's worth, open up your eyes. Greet the birth of the new sunrise. Anyway, besides conceitment, one of the roots of evil, the treatment. A swift pick up the butt, so how you feel?